Welcome to Joycast with DJ HiPrayze.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Joycast. This is a day that the Lord has made, and we're rejoicing. We're so glad in it. This episode of Joycast is going to be a little bit different because most of the time we talk about music and we talk about recordings and that sort of thing. But on this episode, we're going to talk about Christian lifestyle. And I have a great guest with me. Her name is Georgette Orr. Georgette, thank you for joining me on this episode of Joycast. I hope that this will be a lot of fun for you. So introduce yourself to the viewers.
So the first thing I want to say is, Brian, thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity. For the viewers out there, before we started, Brian was calming me down because that's just the nature of my spirit. I always want to do my best. And so I got a little bit of nerves going. But about me, I always like to tell people I'm a small town girl with those big city dreams. I have been in corporate America for more than 20 years to age myself just a little bit. And I grew up surrounded by faith. And we'll get into that with Brian, but I'm so grateful that I grew up surrounded by faith because that carried me even when I didn't know it was carrying me. Mm-hmm. So just again, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. This is going to be a lot of fun. And just to let the viewers know, I met Georgette at work. We worked for a certain company that we won't talk about right now, but we just walking by, you could tell that the light was in her. And so she's just walking by. You said, you had to speak to this person. I had to get to know this person. And I'm so glad that I did. And just to let people know, you are an entrepreneur. And
yes.
you're starting, you have a lot of great things that are happening in the community. But before we get into that, tell them a little bit about your relationship with the Lord, and where do you come from? Because I think I know a few things about you because we've talked a little bit. So just let them know what you want them to know about you and your faith.
So, when we talk about relationship with God, people always reference, growing up in the church, which is something I had and I'm grateful for. But a relationship is a one-on-one connection, right? It's not a one-on-many or many-on-one. It's about you and that other being, that other individual.
Yeah.
And for me, the first time I actually connected with God on a personal level, and I just knew he was real. I have to say, it was in a moment of selfishness, and he provided for me. He's like, okay, you're out on your own now doing your own thing, but guess who's providing for you? Guess who's taking care of you? It is me. And it actually started my last year in high school. I'm a Southern girl, Southern Baptist, so I had been baptized already. And I wanted to get into this certain college. I just knew that was the college and where I was supposed to go. So I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. I'm like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Not fully understanding, that relationship just yet. And I'll tell you, I called to the school. God said, you got to have some initiative, do some things. I actually called the university and spoke to people. That's unheard of nowadays, but I was able to get through. And I spoke to a woman and she said, well, baby, we don't have any more scholarships. And I said, well, I want to start school next year. And I don't know what happened with paperwork or whatever, but I'm really interested. And so she kept talking to me. She just kept talking and asking me questions. And, my GPA came up, my test scores came up, and I was just talking to her. And when she got to know me, she said, you know what, babe? With that GPA and those test scores, we got you a scholarship right here.
Wow. See?
It went from no way to a way.
To a way. He is
just
a way
like
maker.
That.
Yes, he is.
Just like that. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, I got the letter in the mail. I had a full ride.
Wow.
A full ride to college. I got a laptop. All my housing and food costs were paid for 4 years. And it gets even better after that. But now that was my first connection.
That's going to be encouragement to someone that is watching. Some young person is trying to find a way. That is such a testimony. Thank you for sharing that. That's going to encourage so many people. Wow. Wow. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's start looking at some of the things that you are doing. So where would you like me to go first? I'm going to share my screen.
Well, it's Women's History Month.
Uh-huh.
So I think we should go to Blueprints in Motion.
Okay, let's do that. Share my screen. Bear with me. You guys know how I am with technology, so hold on. So is this where we are? Oh, Blueprints
That
in
one.
Motion.
Yes.
Let me refresh it. I thought there was an image up here.
It might be a little lower.
Okay. Oh, there it is. So go ahead. You have the floor. Let's talk about Blueprints in Motion. Why did you develop this?
So I'm one that's always saying work is never finished. Work is always ongoing. You know, you have to continuously grow and develop. And somehow, some way that turned into the concept of building for me. Said, okay, you're building a life, you're building a career, you're building a home. It's always something you're building. And I sat back and I thought about that. And I said, well, Georgette, what about all of the women that have been building before you? Because I am one who likes to look back on the past and read the stories of others for encouragement. I am also one that likes to recognize those women that have poured into me and been mentors along the way. So I said, well, let's start this website. And the website really talks about women who built the infrastructure that we leverage today, whether it's schools and universities, as I just mentioned, whether it's hospitals, whether it's some of the entertainment and the arts. There are so many women throughout history that have contributed beautiful things.
Yes,
and because I'm a woman of color, I had to focus on us for just a little bit.
And that's, look, there's nothing wrong with that. That is so beautiful. I love the title, Blueprints in Motion. It suggests building. It really does when I think about the words. And blueprints lay the foundation for upcoming reality. So it lays the foundation. So what would you say to encourage women to continue to do what they're doing? I'm going to say this because, I want to be as politically correct as I can be. I see women as, especially women of color, being Black women, as they do this naturally, for generations. Black women have held it down for people in this, especially in this country, across the world. And the things that our culture has benefited from women, they tend to make a way out of no way, from our grandmothers, our mothers, our aunties, and these young women that are coming up now, creating a lot of awesome things in the world across the board. So what would you say to the world about Blueprints in Motion and focusing on women of color?
I would say, and I'm going to piggyback on some of your remarks there, we do it naturally. Sometimes as women, as individuals, we don't give ourselves enough credit. And again, that's something Brian has been working on me with. He's been a mentor to me as well, is that sometimes you're just out there doing you, not thinking about being rewarded, not thinking about the spotlight, and not recognizing that you are truly impacting others around you and others that are even yet to come. So I would say that skill that you have, or that passion that you have, that you may be a little nervous about and not telling anyone about it, let it shine, let it come forth. And I'm sure it would be a wonderful contribution to the world.
Amen. I love that. So as we look at this website, it's beautifully done. Of course, everything that Georgette does is awesome. And I'll just say that from, experience. And I'm not just saying that, you do things with quality, and I appreciate that. And so how can people get engaged with this? What is the expectation of this website for users, for viewers, for contributors?
So I'm before I speak directly on how to get engaged, I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the
Mhm.
site. And interestingly enough, it's a way of showing how those things you do naturally can create so many opportunities for you unexpectedly. And I started this site just as a hobby.
Mhm.
My friends said to me, Georgette, you make all of these wonderful items and you're so creative. You should make it a business. And so I started the site with the intention of, oh, okay, I'm gonna earn a little bit of extra money. I'm gonna sell some goods and let's just keep it at that. But as I sat there and I looked at the articles I was designing and producing, everything I designed and produced was an aspect of our culture and
Mhm.
even my own personal experience. Everything I produced showcased Black women, our hair, some of our slang. I have clothing that talks about my faith and how that has carried me in my connection with God. I have clothing that talks about the universities and HBCUs, which I'm so passionate about. And I sat there and I looked at that and I said, wow, okay, that's me. These are all these aspects of me, but there's so many other people out there that can connect to that. And
Yes.
I want to start telling those stories.
Mhm.
And when I decided that I wanted to start telling those stories, of course, I had to tell my own. I started with that first. But then I opened the venue. I said, okay, well, Georgette, you've shared your story. There's so many other stories out there that are unknown. And that's where we get blueprints in motion. But there's also what I call first gen stories, which is an opportunity for women to tell their stories and their experiences in the effort to connect and to let people know that we're all on this journey together. And
Yes.
what you're experiencing is not new. It's
Mhm.
not new at all. And it doesn't make you any less than anyone else because you're experiencing that.
I love that. I love that. Wow. As we do this, as this develops, because this is how how long has Blueprints in Motion been in motion?
So it's brand new. All of these
Mhm.
things are sprouting forth and growing
I
as
love
we
it.
are speaking. Blueprints in Motion started with Black History Month.
Okay.
It started just this year, 2026,
Hmm.
and I highlighted a few women across different industries, of course, education, entertainment, medicine, and science. But then I thought about it. I said, well, this needs to be ongoing because women are always doing things. And so I decided to make it something permanent. It's something that I'll update periodically. And we'll see. We'll see how it grows.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. So, talk about engagement. When they come to visit, how can they participate? How can they get engaged?
Well, I'm hoping from Blueprints in Motion, you're inspired by some of the women from, Black history. But then if you click on, Brian, click on First Gen Stories,
First Gen Stories.
that's an opportunity for you to tell your story and how you're building today.
Nice.
So most recently, we featured LC Bigger. She's an entrepreneur. She's a mom, and she is an HBCU graduate as well. And she shared her story about growing up and coming up through college and just life, and not necessarily having an example, not being provided some of those basic things that we take for granted every day,
Mm.
just because of her childhood and some things that occurred there, and in the hopes that it inspires someone that, hey, it doesn't matter what your background is or what you started with. you can leave a way for someone else. And she talks about that. And it's a
I
really
love that.
inspiring story.
And it's important to inspire because that's why I do what I do, right?
Mhm.
And not just musically, but also, I love this to talk about lifestyle and culture and community because,
Mhm.
knowing that you're not alone means everything. Knowing that the struggles that you go through, others have gone through those struggles before you. And
Mhm.
so having this forum will allow people to become more engaged. So I applaud you for doing this and to follow that instinct. I'd like to say that the Holy Spirit it has shown you this and has given you this platform, and it's very important because it's quality, you know. And that's what we appreciate. So let's move on a little bit from here because I want to get into the apparel because for those of you that watched one of my earlier episodes, I was really excited to purchase this great hoodie from First Gen Collective. So let's talk about First Gen Collective.
Well, as you mentioned, clothing. Outside of work, I'm a bit of a fashionista. There's a creative side to my personality. And so I started designing just various articles of clothing. And for me, one of the things that I've always loved is just a hoodie or a t-shirt
Mm-hmm.
because it can say so much. If you look at my items there, you see Christian apparel, you see
Mm-hmm.
items that talk about self-love, love of Christ. You see items that talk about relationship between a man and a woman and Black love, because
Mm-hmm.
these are things that exist in our community that I think we should showcase and highlight in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I do love it. And I think it's so creative and it's so beautifully done. And and it's from our perspective, it's
Mhm.
from our perspective. This is not someone um trying to mimic our culture. This is coming from within the culture, as you're
Mhm.
inspired. And I personally, I've seen Georgette get inspired, and she starts writing and she'll start scribbling something down on a piece of paper. And it turns out to be these beautiful pieces. I really like this one. I had never seen this one right here. This one here, man, you need to make one for men because this is for ladies. I need one for men, because I really do love it. I see the caps. I mean, it's just really, really beautiful. And for those of you that are following, I mean, as you can see, their bags, their cups, their t-shirts, their pants. I mean, wow. No blueprint. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Mhm.
Oh, I like
And
chosen. Wow,
so,
chosen air. That's pretty cool. I like that one. Oh man,
so
see, I might have to place my
there's
order, people.
yeah, there's stories behind those designs as well, because no blueprint
Hmm.
speaks to being a first generation college
Yes.
graduate.
That would be
You're
me
just
in my
figuring it
family.
out.
I was the
Mhm.
first generation of college graduate in my family. I'm the
And you just
first out of seven children. I'm the first.
and you just figure it out as you go,
Yes, you
right? You
do.
just
I
figure it
like
out.
it.
Hmm.
See? Wow. So this is really, really great. And so I'm going to highlight here. This is your LinkedIn profile. So this is how people can get in contact with you, correct?
Correct. So there is a corporate Georgette, as we mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm doing on the LinkedIn site that kind of ties back to everything is I'm sharing my entrepreneurial journey. I am sharing how I'm still working a 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also
That's
out here.
important to highlight.
Mhm. I'm also out here learning and building as I go,
Mm-hmm.
with this entrepreneurial journey. And there's a few items out there. I started a newsletter recently that talks about how we grow, but also we're kind of rising in our careers as well. And oftentimes we focus on the titles and the career advancement, but there's something happening internally as you're getting these titles and advancing as well. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because it really plays into developing your character as a person as you go through these different life events and career events.
I love that, Georgette, and you're doing really well. One of the things that you did not mention, that as far as your education is concerned, you have two graduate degrees, right? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because I do want to talk a little bit about that, because I think that one of the things, being a person, and I'll share a little bit about myself. I wasn't able to go to school when I was young. I graduated with my bachelor's degree 1 month before my son graduated with his bachelor's degree. I had worked all that time, full time. I had made vice president at a certain company before I got my degree. So when in my mind, I think about, it's more about God's provision, first of all, but also how you show up in the world, how you show up for yourself, how you show up for those around you, and that helps to show your path. That helps to cut away, and make a path for yourself in life. That it doesn't start with a degree, but the degrees do help, and they do open doors and certifications, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's interesting when you say, how do you show up? Because my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, I was able to earn back to back through a 6-year program. And I was only afforded that opportunity because of my performance in school, because I had the grades, and they felt that, oh, okay, well, you're doing well academically. You can rise to the challenge of this program. So I was able to get my first master's degree, my first graduate degree in 6 years, between bachelor's and master's degrees. So that was such a great benefit. So that when I came out of college, I was able to show up with more skills than my counterparts to bring to the table. And that afforded me a lot of opportunities early on in my career. And then there came a moment when I said, you know what? I want to do more. I still have this desire to learn. As I mentioned earlier, I'm always about growth and building. And so I decided I wanted to go back. And interestingly enough, my employer at the time offered tuition reimbursement, a significant amount of tuition reimbursement. And I said, okay, I want to do this. I want to go back. I want to get a master's degree in finance. And I encountered resistance from leadership.
I can imagine.
Leadership said, well, young lady, you have a graduate degree already. Why should we pay for another degree? Right. And here I am, this opportunity that's afforded to everyone else by mere employment, I'm being challenged on.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting dynamic, but I'd like to say that God brought me through that as well.
Yes.
I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry in the conversations I had with the leaders. And as I had to demonstrate to them and indicate to them that, hey, this is going to generate some value for me and for the company, I was able to maintain that composure.
Yes.
And actually, they paid for, I want to say, about 90% of that second degree.
And that's beautiful. In addition to that, you also have very significant certifications, and one of the things that I really like about you is that you have a level head, and that is really, 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 how can I say it? It's really awesome. I can't find the right word. And, working with you, because you and we've worked on some problems and you've always approached it with decorum and, also from a very, very, great perspective. I can't even find my words today, but from a perspective of non-judgment, in the situation. And that is so, so helpful. And you're a problem solver. You're a natural problem solver. And I really appreciated that about you. That's why you're here, right? And I'm glad that our paths have crossed. So before we go, let's do something fun. I want to know, What are some of your favorite songs? Some of your favorite gospel songs, because you and I, we've talked a little bit about music, and so I had to throw that out there real quick. It's like gospel all the time, really, because you grew up in a Christian household, and you probably listened to a lot of gospel music growing up in the South. So,
Mhm,
what are some of your favorite
mhm.
songs?
I would say I have to start with some Mary Mary,
Hmm.
just walk it
Okay,
because
I'm walking. I'm walking. Yes.
because when they came out with that song, for me, it was so different.
Oh yeah.
It had an energy about it, but it was still talking about faith and
Yes.
how your faith is with you all of the time. And I said, wow, I could have a little beat to it.
Uh-huh.
It still has a purpose. So that song is so old. Yeah, but that would be one of my favorites.
Old
And
is
another
relative. I'll put it that way. So we're not going to talk about that. But go ahead. So so that's
another
a good
one.
one. That's a real good
Mhm.
one. I love Mary Mary. So
And then
go ahead.
I was saying another one that's just, everybody knows this little light of mine.
Uh huh.
I even have a t-shirt that talks about letting your light shine. And Brian doesn't know this, but because you said that to me one day, I thought about that song and that t-shirt.
Uh huh.
I
Uh-huh.
said, because so many of us go through day to day not recognizing our own gifts and our own strengths.
Yeah.
And we don't let those things shine and come forth and be fruitful in the world. So I said, you know what? I'm going to design something about this.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I can't wait till I can buy one for myself. Just saying. But Georgette, thank you so much for joining. So to wrap this up, what
Mhm.
would you say to the viewers? Leave them with an encouraging word.
Encouraging word. So one thing I'll always say is keep going. I mentioned the song Mary Mary Walking, but just keep going. Whether it is something that you're struggling through, whether it is some uncertainty, you have to be willing to keep going. And when I say keep going, I don't necessarily want you to keep going on your own, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pray about it.
Yes.
Pray about it. Because as you're moving through these different circumstances in life, God is there and
Yes.
he's telling you what direction he wants you to move, when he wants you to be still, and when he's gonna provide for you. And as Brian mentioned, you can have that decorum and not worry about it at all.
Amen.
So that's the thing that I would say. Keep going. Listen to God because he is there talking to you.
Yes.
And you just have to acknowledge him and listen to him, and you'll be able to get through whatever that circumstance is.
Well said. So beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Georgette. And I know the viewers will appreciate that. So, how can they get in contact with you? What are your preferences for connection?
So you can definitely reach out on the First Gen Collective website. There's forms out there if you just want to inquire about maybe you have an idea that I could bring to life for you. We can definitely talk about that. Maybe you want to share your story as some of the other women have done out there. You can do that there as well. And if you want to follow me in my entrepreneurial journey and balancing the 9 to 5, you can find me on LinkedIn and we can connect there as well.
I love that. Well, thank you again, Georgette. This has been more than a blessing. I'm so glad this has
Oh,
happened. Thank you for
and
being
thank
such a
you.
wonderful, yes. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of our journey and a part of our legacy. So this is great. I'm Brian N. Brooks, aka DJ HiPrayze. Please tune in to DJ HiPrayze Radio at djhiprayze.com. And that's DJHiPrayze. Come and get your inspiration. Until next time, bye bye.
Welcome to Joycast with DJ